Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 word and some reaction to the 2023 Italian Grand Prix. What a Grand Prix it was as well. I was just thinking before I went live there, before the countdown finished, I think I enjoyed that more than Zandvoort, because for me, that was less about rain causing a little bit of chaos and more about actual racing. And I think I preferred that to Zandvoort. So I really, really enjoyed that one. Let me know how you rate that out of 10. I think that was one of the best races of the season. Some great defensive driving, some defensive driving that was a little bit over the line. Let's be honest. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, throughout. And ultimately, a record-breaking Sunday. Who saw that coming yesterday? Max Verstappen making it 10 in a row. Absolutely unreal. Fantastic race. And it just goes to show, doesn't it, that, you know, all right, it took a while for Max to get through, but he did go off and effectively more or less dominate once he got the lead, but in behind, so much going on. But to have that little battle at the front as well for those first 14, 15 laps or whatever it was, just really added to that. So I really enjoyed that, and big congratulations to Red Bull as well for Max Verstappen for 10 in a row, and 23 or 24 out of the last 25 races have been won by Red Bull. I mean, they're just inevitable, aren't they? Absolutely unbelievable. So congrats to them. But I'm just so... I love Monza anyway, so when we get a great Monza as well, a great race, it just adds to it. And we've got a poll, as always. Rate the race, great, good, average, or bad. At the moment, good is winning at 43. I think it was a little bit better than good. And I'm not sure who's voting bad, but I assume that's people who don't like the fact their driver didn't win today or something, because, as I said last week, if you think that was a bad race, F1 maybe ain't for you. But it's all about opinions, so lots to get into. I've got lots of notes here. We're gonna keep this as a usual reaction. We'll go through the order, starting at the top three teams, work our way through from there. I'll come to you throughout for comments. Solo again, as I say, a bit of a ball ache trying to get guests for these streams now, so it's just easier for me to just crack on with it on my own. So here we are, me and you guys. We'll be fine, I'm sure. So let's start, as we always do, with Max Verstappen and Red Bull. Like I say, 10 in a row for Max Verstappen. Now, it is a record, beating Sebastian Vettel's 9th win, and of course 10 years on from Sebastian Vettel's 9 in a row in that dominant, particularly back end to 2013, but the whole season was pretty dominant. So unreal from Red Bull today, but he had to work for it, certainly in that first phase. Qualifying P2 yesterday, down to turn 1. Sainz really decent start, fended off Max Verstappen on those first few laps. Max did say on lap 4 that Sainz was already sliding, so at that point I think I grimaced, thinking, yeah, it's not your day, Ferrari, I don't think. He just never let him go. He was always within that DRS once it was activated. Some really hard defending from Sainz. I think some of it, or most of it, was okay. I think Martin Brundle said in commentary it was at the limit. There were a couple that were maybe over the limit, but I think whilst I saw the conversation in chat before the stream about how, you know, we don't want, or that you're not liking that there's no space being left and it's over the line. If anyone's going to beat Red Bull this season, they're going to have to push the limit, aren't they? Let's face it. And that's what Ferrari tried today, so credit for them, but or to them, sorry. But Max Verstappen, in the end, pretty comfortable once he got through. And what a move for the lead as well, by the way. I was cringing as they went side by side through Curva Grande. So that move as Verstappen tries it into turn 1. Sainz, I think, locked up a little bit, didn't he? Went in deep, and then tight on the second part of the chicane at turn 2. Then Verstappen ducks back under, side by side, outside of Curva Grande, inside. There's a picture in a bit, up into the second chicane, and he took the lead from there and never really looked back. I think 1.5 seconds clear within a couple of laps. That was it, game over. And we kind of knew that once he got into the lead, that was game over. It's not all, a bit more drama as well. There was, towards the end, was asked by his engineer to increase the gap to the lapped Pierre Gasly. Quite an urgent request. So I've not seen officially, please let me know in chat what the gremlin was, but a gremlin creeping in towards the end, which is why he lost quite a lot of time. In his last lap, he did a 1:27.5 and Sergio Perez a 25.9. So obviously coasting up front anyway, but also having to coast because he's got an issue. So whatever that was, let me know if you know. If not, I'll wait for the press releases to come through and we'll see what they say. But not plain sailing, but still 10 in a row. Do we think... I can't believe I'm asking this question, and I am asking it tongue-in-cheek. Do we think he's won this championship? Do we think he's got a good chance of making it 3 titles in a row? I think it's looking pretty good, isn't it? I think it looks that way. Again, it's a tongue-in-cheek comment and question. I know it's done. Japan apparently is probably the most recent or most likely or his first opportunity. That's what I'm trying. His first opportunity to win the title. I still think Qatar is more likely, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, really good fighting at the front. Had to work for Verstappen, and it's nothing against Max to say this. It was the same when Hamilton was doing it, and I'm sure many of you who didn't like Schumacher will have felt the same. But it's even if they do keep winning, it's nice to see them have to work for some of them rather than just starting on pole 2 seconds up the road in 2 laps and then you never see them again. It's nice to see the fight, and it's always good stuff. So let's look at these super chats. Got a couple coming actually nice and early, so thank you very much to Vesk and to Stefan for your super chats. Vesk says, hey Sean, thanks so much for letting me back in the chat, I love it. Question, should wind tunnel CFD time be proportional to the points you have rather than the position? Red Bull are winning by such a huge margin. We'll do the Q&A later, mate, but thank you so much for your super chat, and no worries on the letting you back in. I didn't realise you'd been blocked. Just to anybody out there who is thinking, why am I not seeing myself in chat? And you may have been, is it shadow banned or muted on YouTube? I had some mods a few years ago who would just ban you for farting in the wrong direction for no reason. It was silly, really. So a lot of people got on the block list who didn't deserve to be. So if you want to reach out, ask the question, find me on Twitter or anywhere else, just ask the question, drop me an email, and I will have a look at your username and we'll pop you back in the chat. It's not a problem, so just to let you know. Thank you as well to Stefan for your super chat, very generous as well. Thank you so much. It says, what a banger of a race, glad to be witnessing history. Hopefully we see Lawson back in Singapore. Come on, Liam. Do you see 10 ever been broken again other than next week, says Stefan. Again, I'll come back to that in Q&A. Or no, I'll do that one now actually because it is relevant to Verstappen, isn't it? But thank you very much for your super chats. And to Gecko Gamer as well for yours. Says, will Williams continue to outscore Alpine, or was this an exception? We will come to that in Q&A, but thank you very much to all three of you for your early super chats there. But just to kind of answer, I know we do Q&A, but I will answer Stefan's because it is kind of relevant to what we're saying here. Do I think apart from next week, will it be broken? I'm going to say no, but I will also like to point out that I also said no when, not obviously on a stream because I wasn't here then. Well, I mean, I was alive, but I wasn't streaming. I said the same when Vettel made it 9 in a row, and I also said that I never thought that Michael Schumacher's record of 7 titles would be equalled or ever beaten, and that could be beaten, and it's been equalled. So I'll say no, but with the caveat that I'm usually pretty wrong on these things, and records are there to be broken. So I think there'll be a lot of neutral fans that hope that we never see it broken, because that generally means you've got a team dominating. But don't forget as well, 2 more races next season. The calendar keeps growing. I think we could easily end up at more than that. I know they keep saying they won't, but I think we'll end up at more than that in the future. It offers more opportunities. But it's in a row. It's just unbelievable. So I'm going to say no, but we'll see. It could happen. I've been wrong before, so yes. But yeah, no, I just brilliant from Max Verstappen today. And can I say as well, Sergio Perez, I don't think he's got enough love from the post reaction stuff I've been watching, and I think Sainz got driver of the day for his defensive driving, but I think Perez was absolutely brilliant today. Yeah, all right in a fast car, but on a track where DRS doesn't always have the biggest impact. I know they had a bit of a fatter rear wing, let's say, than some of those around them, so they maybe had a more powerful DRS than others did, plus it's more powerful generally anyway for them. But I think he did well to fight through to come up into second place and to be, 6 seconds off his ailing teammate, let's say, towards the end, and make it a Red Bull 1-2. It's a result that he desperately needed. And that is, I know people will say, oh, wow, in the fastest car, I can't believe you're giving him this credit, Sean. But that is 3 podiums in the last 4 races. And only 4 or 5 races ago, everyone was talking about how he needs to get his arse out of that car because he's rubbish. So he's getting the results he needs to, is what I guess I'm saying, for Red Bull to try and keep hold of that seat. But he was pretty racy today as well. Trying to move on Russell outside of turn 1 on lap 11 for P4, but Russell was super late on the brakes. Almost a defensive dive bomb, and held on to the position, but eventually did get him. They did go off track together on lap 14 at turn 1. Perez came out ahead, but let Russell back through. Perez did say on the radio, he pushed me off. He did not push him off, can confirm. Just outbraked himself and locked up, then got the inside of Russell to take P4 in the end, and then did lead for a bit, for a lap or 2 during the pit stops, but then ended up behind the Ferraris when he came out. Tried to move on Leclerc, lap 31, close to contact to second chicane, with Checo dipping a wheel on the grass, but there was no contact. I purposefully went back and watched an onboard of that before the stream. There wasn't contact. It was flipping close, though. Didn't want to be any closer than that one. Looked more dramatic than it was, and passed the Ferrari on the run to turn 1 a lap later. Complained that Sainz was moving under braking, which I think even commentary and then the things I was looking at, I think people were sort of agreeing that Sainz had for much of the race had been sort of up to the line if you follow me. But then after that, a few were a little bit over the line. So I'm surprised there weren't maybe some black and white flags shown. Maybe it's a driving standards flag, isn't it? Just a warning like, all right, Carlos, you've moved under braking. Don't do that again. So I'm surprised we didn't see one, but we didn't. And in the end, did manage to get through. I put bit sketchy later on with the Sainz thing, which it kind of was, but he passed him into turn 1 like 46 to take P2 and make it a 1-2 for Red Bull. I do love, by the way, how I call these reactions, not reviews, as I sit here and review what the drivers were doing in the race. It's a bit weird, but there you go. We'll see. It was a decent drive from Perez today, and I think a much-needed P2. And I think it probably feel a little bit sweeter for him as well, because he had to pass Russell and had to pass the Ferraris, and it wasn't a track that, a bit like Silverstone, isn't the easiest to pass on with DRS, because it's not like I say, the skinny rear wings. The DRS is less effective, so he's done a good job today. I think it'll be a little bit sweeter for him, but thoroughly deserved podium today, and 1-2 for Red Bull. And it's that, I don't know how many that is for the season. Is it 6 or 8 for the season for Red Bull? I've got those two numbers in my head. 1-2 finishes. It is 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 6 for the season, which I believe, because I think we mentioned this last week or a few weeks ago, that could be their most in a season, or at least equals their record for most 1-2s in a season. So I feel like with that car, there should be more, but I know Perez hasn't had it easy at the same time. So Max Verstappen is definitely making a huge difference in that car. We know that, but just what a team. And I won't read the exact words I've written here about Max Verstappen, but what a flipping driver. Unreal this season, and that's both titles. Well done. We know that already. So, and I've got to say, we talked about this yesterday briefly, very, very quickly. Talked about this yesterday. Do we want Max Verstappen and Red Bull to win all the races this season just so the record is done and we're not asking that question again? It would be great, but now he's got the 10 and got the record. I kind of don't care from here on in, and I'm quite happy if it's gloves off, let's go chaos for the final 8 races of the season. Let's all go bonkers. Why not? I think that'd be great. So that's it for Red Bull. I'm not going to sit here and repeat all of that again and keep repeating myself on them. Carlos Sainz, pole position to P3 today, but I think pretty decent for him there. I think probably, if you'd have said to me yesterday 3rd and 4th for Ferrari, I might have said I'd have thought one might get 2nd, but looking at how the race played out, their tyre wear as well was an issue, wasn't it, for them today again? Particularly early on, the rears were going off on Carlos's car, lockups as well, which won't have helped them. I think 3rd and 4th is actually a really good result for Ferrari. I know it doesn't look it, 1st and 3rd and then finishing 3rd and 4th. Doesn't look great, but given the dominance of that Red Bull, I think that is a pretty solid result. It moves them ahead of Aston Martin in the Constructors as well, which I think Fred Vasseur was saying he wasn't that fussed about. It's not about the championship this year. It's about moving forward because they want to be 1 and 2. They don't want to be fighting for 3 and 4, but that's the way it is at the moment. So I think they can be very happy with that. They're sort of best of the rest, aren't they, if you want to call them that. I've already talked about Sainz. A few of his moves were a little bit over the line, somewhat on the line. I have no problem with the driver being aggressive in defence, but I think, moving under braking, especially somewhere like Monza, down that long start-finish straight, moving under braking can be, airplane-style crashes. I don't like that. But I have no problem with drivers getting their elbows out. And I saw, actually, I think it was Dell in chat before we started, said that the rule about leaving a car's width is something that needs to be looked at. And it reminded me of what Martin Brundle says, that the rule really needs to be a car's width and a little bit more, doesn't it? Because a car's width doesn't leave much leeway in the regulations, technically. And a car's width means you're rubbing wheels, which is fine. Rubbing is racing. People keep telling me that, but sometimes you've got to be careful on tracks like Monza. Is kind of the point I'm making there. But I don't mind the aggression. Like I say, Ferrari needed to be. The only way you're going to beat Red Bull this year is to be aggressive, and they were. They were aggressive. Thank you very much to Stefan, by the way, for another super chat. So Sergio Perez appreciation super chat. Thank you very much, mate. Appreciate that. I'm sure Checo will as well. We'll buy him a beer if we ever see him. I highly doubt it, but there you go. Thank you very much, mate. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with Ferrari. The biggest thing for me, though, for Ferrari was the racing at the end. Charles Leclerc was inches, centimetres, whatever, away from taking both of them out of the race, which would have been catastrophic. It was so close. Big lockup into that first corner, very nearly into the back. I think it was the final lap, wasn't it? So that was pretty close. That would have got Fred Vasseur, brown trouser time, I'd imagine. But yeah, I think Leclerc today seemed to have a bit more pace than Sainz, but just couldn't get that move done again. Same car, DRS not as effective. It's going to be tough to overtake, but they gave it everything, and they really were giving us so much entertainment. So thank you, Ferrari, for that. That was absolutely brilliant. Like I said, Carlos was struggling with his rears. At the start of the race, on a second formation lap, Leclerc was having issues with his turning as well, but it turned out to be okay. Nothing in the data. A couple of opportunities, a couple of attempts to pass Carlos Sainz. The best one was probably the side-by-side down to Curva Grande, which was pretty exciting stuff, but couldn't quite do it both into the runoff, which, again, I'm sure Fred Vasseur will be having a word with them over that one. But it was just so much fun to watch the Ferraris battle, and you know, that's for the final step on the podium. You can't really call your drivers off in that situation. If you're 5th and 6th, you can go over the radio and say hold position, but I think when there's a podium on the line, and they've not had that many podiums this year, Ferrari, I think it's fair to let your drivers crack on with it. But what do you think in chat about Sainz's defence and the Ferrari battling all together? I'm pleased they didn't call it off. Ferrari, once upon a time, would have absolutely called that off. He says, as a Schumacher superfan, but it was, yeah. I think they tried to call it off a little bit, didn't they? The team, but not call it off. They just tried to calm things down just a tad. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I like seeing them battling. So, Dell says unique trophies are cool. The trophies are gorgeous. So I think we're getting pretty decent trophies, even if they don't look great. They're better than those copy and paste Heineken trophies we used to get. If you remember, that one this weekend it's based on exhaust, isn't it? It looks absolutely stunning. So, you know, I wouldn't mind when you want to buy me one. That's great. Or send me the money to buy one. It'll probably be tens of thousands of pounds, if not a damn sight more than that. So, you know, we'll get one, stick it on a shelf behind me. It'd be lovely. But it was really, really nice. And I think that's one that Sainz will treasure. And that podium as well, full stop. Oh, the scenes. I said it yesterday. I love that bloody podium. Absolutely fantastic. Newt Dukem says the defence was rough, very rough. Personally, just barely over the line, in my opinion. Something that should have warranted a black and white flag, not more, but no more. Ryan says, I think Sainz pulled a double move when Max went for his first overtake close to the line. Maybe a bit over, but love to watch Max fight for it. John T, afternoon, mate, says, according to Andrew Benson, well over an hour after the race, Charlie's at the pit wall signing autographs and taking selfies with Tifosi, who are all still filling the straight. They make a real effort, don't they, Ferrari at Monza? Not that other teams don't do it at tracks. Mercedes at Silverstone do with Lewis Hamilton and George Russell, don't they? And McLaren do, but it's always good to see there. As long as they keep it clean, then it's all good. However, it got a bit hairy at times, says the Mac. I sort of agree with you there, mate. As long as you're not big collisions or anything like that, I think you can get it. I think there was one where they ended up both in the runoff, which I think probably needed to be looked at, but stewards don't tend to look at things, do they, between teammates quite so much? Unless I've missed something. They tend to sort of, I don't know if maybe the stewards or race control or whoever, they said Michael Massey then, he's not the race director anymore, is he? Niels Vittich, I don't know if he goes to teams and goes, look, you know, we didn't look at that. However, you need to have a word with your drivers and make sure they don't do it. I don't know if there's I don't think there should be, but I don't know if there's like a special dispensation when teammates get close like that and things are a bit over the line, whether they just talk to the teams and tell them to have a word and calm it down. Because, again, they said in commentary, teams aren't going to be over the team radio saying, oh, my Charles' teammate just did this or Carlos's teammate just did that. They're not going to complain, are they? So maybe that's why. And that's, Blobfishy, wicked name, says a team won't report something if it's between teammates. That's the other thing as well, isn't it? So, but great stuff from Ferrari, great stuff from Red Bull, really enjoyable race, full stop. Thank you to both of those. As always, if I miss anything, we'll get to the third team in a minute. If I miss anything, we'll do Q&A later. You can come back to me and say, Sean, you didn't mention this, you fool. Keep it nice, and then we will talk about that one. I just want to get through the field, so I'll make sure I say something on everybody. Even if I just go, I've got no notes on that person, I need to talk about everybody. George Russell, P5 today for Mercedes, P6 for Lewis Hamilton. Both of them in the wars today and in the races. Talked about Russell's battle with Perez early on. Did Russell, that he thought the undercut would be powerful. And I think it was fairly powerful today, the undercut for most. That was on lap 13. He stopped on end of lap 18 from P4. Pretty decent race, actually, from George in terms of pace today. And a really good result to be fifth. Where did he start? Fourth. So he's not lost much there. He's lost out to Perez. And I think that's pretty decent. Mercedes will be, again, as I always say with Mercedes, content. Because I get shouted at a lot when I say that they'll be happy with that. Because, well, Mercedes want to be winning. They're not happy. But every team wants to be winning, so I think they'll be content with that one. Did get a 5-second penalty for the incident with Esteban Ocon. So George is coming out the pits, into the pit exit, into turn one. Cold tyres was it Bradley Lord said to Sky? Bit of cold tyre into turn one and kind of ran towards Ocon, and they both went off track. George kept the position. Ocon, and didn't give it back to Ocon, which a bit risky. I feel like he could have given that back because he would have got Ocon pretty easily anyway, but maybe he felt that he could pull the 5 seconds, and in the end he did. And he still ended up P5, so he didn't really lose anything in that one. But I have no argument with that one on the penalty front there. I think that was a penalty. And Lewis Hamilton, apparently his tyres didn't start getting up to temperature till around about lap 5 or 6. So that's why his pace was slow at the start. He was on the hard tyre. Everybody else was on the mediums. Did lead for a little bit, actually, or a lap or two while the McLaren's pitted, but Verstappen breezed past on lap 25. Pitted lap 27 for mediums. Slowish stop. And I've put ish because it's not really, is it 2.8 seconds, but it is in F1 terms. Rejoined behind Alonso. Wasn't really thrilled with the strategy. I think he was concerned that they wouldn't get to the end on the mediums from there, but he did, obviously, as it turns out. Nice overtake on Alonso as well, and a nice overtake on Alex Albon, I think it was. It was on the outside of turn 1 for P6, I believe, on lap 47. So, really nice overtake there. One big moment for Lewis, though, was the incident with Oscar Piastri. Now, I'm sure there's plenty of debate on the socials about this one and how it's not his fault and it's just a racing incident, because I've already seen people saying that. However, I can end the argument immediately because Lewis Hamilton has taken full responsibility and has apologised to Oscar Piastri. So, it's kind of irrelevant what I think. However, I'll tell you what I think. It's a penalty. I don't think it's not deliberate. I believe he said something along the lines of he just misjudged the gap, or the space between the two drivers, and he's come across and they've had contact, and it's damaged Oscar Piastri, and Lewis has kind of got off a little bit scot-free in terms of damage and gone on to finish in P6. So I think the penalty is absolutely the right call from the stewards there. Bit sloppy. I've watched the onboard of Piastri a couple of times. He does not turn left at any point before the contact, so there's nothing on him there. It's just one of those, not really a bottleneck, but that kind of thing. You know, you've got the line on the right and the grass and the curb. Piastri can't go anywhere. Hamilton's coming across to sort of start taking the line. He's misjudged the gap, and then boom, and it's poor Piastri who's come out the worst on that one, and he finished 12th after that. So Hamilton, there's the picture there, P6 for him in the end. A few people, I'm sure, are a bit annoyed that the 5 seconds didn't affect his race, because he ended up finishing 6th because he built the gap to Albon. But I think when you look at the stewards and what they give for these kinds of incidents, that is consistent with what they usually give. And we can do what we like, but we shouldn't bemoan the stewards for not being consistent, and then when they apply penalties consistently, then complain that they're being too consistent. So I can understand why people would argue that it's affected Piastri worse than it's affected Hamilton, even with a penalty. But I think that the stewards can't be like, yeah, well, you know, Piastri finished 12th and Hamilton was 6th, and it doesn't really affect him. Let's give him 10 seconds or 7 seconds or whatever. I don't think they can go doing that, because that's going to open up a can of bloody worms, and you know it will. So I think 5 is consistent with what they're doing, and I think I'm not going to say fair, because the world isn't fair, and it's not fair on Piastri, but Piastri got his own penalty anyway, so we'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, I think the right call from the stewards in the end. John T says, going to open up all stuff again, but if Lewis is a penalty, because it is, then Leclerc did not win in 2019. Yeah, you know, we can have that conversation, but you know what I'm going to say, John T. You know what's coming, mate. It's 2023. I'm not having a dig at you at all. You know I'm not, but I have no interest in last year, let alone back then. Leclerc was super aggressive in that move to the right. I think if that happened today, probably would have been a penalty, but I think you've got to remember, and you do, because you're not daft, John, you know, but you go back, different race director, different stewards, different everything. I know you've just been a git. It's where I got it from. I used to be lovely. I used to be so calm and chill before I met John T, didn't I, John T? It's you turned me into this grumpy old man. I'm not having it. Go back and watch the videos before I met John T. It was definitely not John T that caused that one. Yeah, so I get it, but looking at, new race director, new stewards and all of that, and the way they apply the rules now is even a little bit different to back then. So I think the only thing I would say on that is if that was that, he got a black and white flag that time, didn't he, Leclerc? So it's a bit odd that you got one then but not today for some of the other stuff we saw. But again, different rules, rules applied differently, different race direction. It's a bit complicated, but I get your point. It was cheeky from Leclerc at best. Thank you very much at best to Bill Asher. Hey, Bill. Good to see you again, mate. Says it leaves a sour taste in my mouth to see Lewis finish 6th and Austin in 12th. 5-second penalty is almost useless. Thank you very much, mate. I've just covered that one, so I'll not repeat it again, but I do appreciate your super chat and good to see you again. Give us a bold prediction, Bill, just in chat. I'll keep an eye out for you. You did one last year and you had me sweating, so let's see if we can get one this year. And I don't know, just changing my name. Thank you very much for your super chats. I've got to say, I respect Hamilton apologising. Speaking of respecting drivers, does Albon move from Williams this off-season? I will come to that in Q&A, mate. I will come back to these super chats, but I want to read them out to make sure I don't forget. So thank you very much indeed. I don't know why I did that like I'm reading the news or something. Yeah, in other news. But yes, that's the top 3 teams. Obviously, again, we'll come back to them later on when you've got some questions. But I think, I guess the summary for that, well done to Red Bull. Thanks for keeping it exceptionally entertaining, Ferrari. And I think they were in the wars, but Mercedes are probably quite content with 5th and 6th today, given that they didn't have the pace to challenge anywhere near Ferrari or Red Bull in the end. So that's your kind of top 3 there. But we will absolutely come back to them in Q&A and things like that. Please do drop a like, by the way. We're nearly at 100, 487 here. I assume there are loads of votes on the poll yet. So please do drop a like. It would be massively appreciated. Don't forget to vote on the poll. I'll close it shortly. You can also support the channel through Streamlabs, through PayPal if you'd like to. Make sure that if you do that, you pop a message in so I can read it out, even if it's just a hello or an emoji to say hello, so I can give you a shout out on that one. You can through Patreon as well, a bit more longer term, and you can as well by becoming a channel member. Always appreciated. The channel could do with the likes and the subs and the bits like that and all the support I could get at the moment. So I might do a stream in a week or so where I sit with you all and do a proper channel update, which I've not done properly. I've done bits and bobs, but properly since about 2019, because there's a lot I need to say, which might upset some people. But yeah, it could do with all the support I could get. So all the likes appreciated. And thank you very much for your continued support through what has been a tricky year. But let's not do that today. We don't want the negatives. It's been a cracking race, Sean. Focus on the Grand Prix. Alex Albon, P7 in the Williams. What a drive. What a weekend. What a couple of weeks. What a season for Williams. Just what everything with Williams. I love Williams. It's so good to see them. I don't know if anybody's a little bit disappointed. A few people in chat yesterday thought that he'd be on for a P3 today, and I think the pace early on looked pretty decent. But today it was about what I expected. The widest Williams in Formula One once again, keeping as many people at bay as possible. Somehow, despite struggling with everything and complaining on the radio, I had the team radio on today, by the way, when I was watching it, so I could listen to that along rather than relying on the TV to do it. And I got a few more insights there, but Albon really frustrated with his tyres, really struggling, talking about plan B, possible 2-stopper, managed to make the 1-stopper work, did a cracking job. One thing I did make a note of, by the way, for Albon, which I thought was interesting, unless I misread it, after he'd made his pit stop, and Sargent was the same as well, by the way. And I know fresh tyres will count for a lot of this, but after he made his pit stop, the only cars on track faster than the Williams pair were the Red Bulls, I believe. So it just showed fresh set of tyres, and this is what George was saying about the undercut being quite powerful. That was working really well for Williams. The problem was he put them on a little bit earlier, so towards the end he was struggling, but really great driving, really great defending. A few little close moments with Lando Norris, I believe, and a few bits like that, but generally really good driving from Alex Albon to get a really nice haul of points. I think it's 21 for the season for Albon now, so it's looking great for Williams and for him as well, but he was just tough to pass. Hamilton got past in the end but and built the gap he needed for his penalty, but Norris just could not get through. Piastri couldn't get through. It's what we expected, really, wasn't it? It really, really was. And it kind of feels, Jamie saying in chat that Albon being the tyre whisperer again, it does feel a little bit like, not quite the same, obviously, because he went pretty much the whole race in Australia last year. I think it was last year, wasn't it? It's been a long year. It's been a long year, but I think it was last year. And it felt a little bit like that today again. Looking after those tyres, getting that car to the end, really good drive. And like I say, Logan Sargent, pretty good stuff from him as well. One of the fastest cars on track after his pit stops. Fresher tyres obviously helping, but it still all counts. And he had good pace all race, to be fair, Logan Sargent, and seemed to be right up there and on the brink of a point. However, on lap 44, he said, I have damage over team radio. Couldn't confirm it was front wing or not, and then got a 5-second penalty for a collision. Now, I didn't see what that was for, so obviously I've been off to the FIA website to have a look, and I can now tell you what that was for. It was for a collision with Valtteri Bottas. So Logan was attempting to overtake Bottas on the inside of turn 4. Sargent, who never reached a point where he could have made the overtake, missed his braking point and hit Bottas, who was already in the turn and to his right. Yeah, that's correct. Sargent was wholly to blame, is what they've said, and that's all the explanation given. So a little moment there at turn 4 with Bottas that got Sargent, probably the damage and the 5-second penalty as well. Otherwise, he would have been P11, which would have been his joint best finish of the season, I believe. Indeed it is, because he did that in Silverstone, didn't he? P11. So really good stuff from Sargent, generally speaking. Obviously disappointing that he got the penalty, but he was on the fringes of points. A retirement ahead, and he might have got that first point that I'm desperate for him to get. So I think decent from Sargent. Williams will probably look at it as progress, but it's a shame he got the penalty, so it kind of looks worse than it was. But then it's whose fault was it they got the penalty? You know, he made the move or whatever. So I'll always say that you do feel for a driver sometimes, but they make the mistake. They cause the incident. They're going to get a penalty. That's fair enough. But I'm really happy for Williams, full stop, this season. It's decent points again, and they're looking good. I think they should be P7, 10 points clear of Haas now. I don't see Alfa Romeo catching them. I don't see Haas doing it. I don't see AlphaTauri doing it. But then I'll throw the usual caveat in. Singapore next, bit of chaos. You never know, do you? It might not be quite a strong track for them. It might be brilliant. We'll see. But there's Brazil, the lottery that is Brazil. We could have anything in Brazil, from a comfortable Red Bull 1-2 to a Williams 1-2. You just never know. You never know in Brazil. AlphaTauri could get a 1-2 and blow it all out of the water, but you never know. Really good stuff from Williams today. Lando Norris, P8, and Oscar Piastri, P12. We sort of talked about Piastri already. Did beat Albon initially off the line, but then fell back behind him on lap 2, leading with his teammate through the pit stops 1 and 2, and I think that's the first time, because Piastri led at the sprint, didn't he, at Spa, but he's not led an actual Grand Prix before. So well done to him for getting some laps in the lead on the board. Pitted a lap after his teammate, which I thought was interesting. I've not written down why that might be. Were McLaren covering off they might have been covering off an undercut from somebody else, actually, to be fair. That could be what they were doing there. But yeah, Norris was pitted before Piastri. We'll stick with Piastri for a minute. Very close, I thought, at turn 1 on the pit exit as Piastri rejoined and Norris went through. Turned out it was very close because there was contact. Looked quite hefty on board, but didn't look like anything off board, but it was quite hefty on board. Piastri kind of, I would say, understeering into Norris. Do you think that's fair? I think that's pretty reasonable. It's kind of what happened. So there you go. No major damage to either car in the end, which was fine. It was looked at by the stewards, but again, no investigation. As people have said in chat already, they're not going to report at each other. And we've talked about the incident with Lewis Hamilton into the braking zone of the second chicane, which damaged his front wing, which was frustrating for Oscar, because I think it would have been points. It probably would have been around, it would have been P9, wouldn't it, really, behind Lando Norris, but it's cost him today. Also got a 5-second penalty, interesting enough, for an incident with Liam Lawson. Now, I've written this down, but I have to read the decision from the stewards because I didn't catch the whole thing. So I wrote, because I saw the second part at the second chicane, he kind of went for an overtake on Lawson for P12 at the second chicane. Lawson kind of didn't leave him a lot of space, to be fair, on the outside, but Piastri cut the corner and took the position, was given a 5-second penalty. But there's actually more to it. So I'll read the whole thing. Piastri missed the corner at turn 1 and rejoined after turn 2, having gained an advantage against Lawson. Piastri gave the position back at turn 3 and tried again to overtake Lawson at turn 4. However, Piastri was not ahead at the apex and thus, in the opinion of the stewards, did not have the right to the line at turn 5, the second part of the chicane, if you're wondering. He left the track at turn 5 and gained a position over Lawson and did not subsequently give it back, thus leaving the track and gaining a lasting advantage. So a 5-second time penalty. By the way, just a reminder, Sargent got 2 points as well on his licence, but Piastri nothing now on his licence. So it sounds like it started at the first chicane, or it did start the first chicane, and then rumbled on down to that second chicane. So I will say, and you all know I like Liam Lawson, so I'll say it anyway, but I think he didn't leave a lot of space, but the stewards have said there that he wasn't really ahead. Where's the line again? Piastri was not ahead at the apex and thus, in the opinion of the stewards, did not have the right to the inside line at turn 5. So, and then he's cut the chicane and taken. It's one of those, isn't it, where he's overtaken off track. Whatever the reason, he has overtaken the car off track, and so the stewards are always going to take action on that if you don't give the position back. So ultimately helped Liam Lawson out quite a lot. But I think pretty much summed up by Piastri. I can't remember his exact words, but basically he was having a bit of a crap day at that point anyway, so it's not really destroyed his race in the end. So a shame for Piastri, but P12 does not... It represents and tells a story that his race ended up being a bit cack because of things happening to him. but his pace was pretty decent up to that point. So I think that McLaren won't be concerned by that too much, and nobody else should be. So he's done a great job this season. Lando Norris, though, who did finish in the points, 8th place. What have I got for him here? We've had the contact, which was, I mean, like I said, Stewart did have a little look. They noted it, but I don't think there's an investigation there. Again, it's teammates. It's coming out the pits. It's cold tyres. It's no damage is done. They stayed where they would have been anyway. So I think maybe if Piastri pitches Norris into a spin, they may have taken some action. We'll never know. But I think almost no harm. So sort of no foul is kind of going where I'm going on that one. But yeah, Norris, essentially the story of his race was he couldn't get past, other than that, he couldn't get past Alex Albon. Did consider box to overtake at the end of lap 39, but did not stop. So they tried to bluff Williams into an extra pit stop, but it didn't work. Apparently Ted Kravitz said that the team were pretty much in the box ready for him. So maybe one of those stay out if Albon pits, but if Albon also stays out, you stay out as well. So an attempt from McLaren, but yeah, they've got to be happy with that in the end. Not on Piastri's side, I mean on Norris's side, 8th place. Probably would have liked to have got Albon 3/10 across the line. Just that Williams is so quick in a straight line. They just were never going to do it. And I think we knew that yesterday, didn't we? So disappointing for McLaren versus how they've been in the last few races, but probably, what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th fastest team. Maybe they felt they were 4th fastest, just couldn't get Albon. So I don't think they're that far off where I probably thought they would have been at the start of the weekend. Although I did put them on the podium, taking a bit of a gamble that we're going to get a bit of drama, but I'm actually just on predictions super quick. I'm really annoyed with myself. This week I decided not to put Perez P2, and I talked myself out of putting a Ferrari on the podium. And guess what? Typical. I'm useless at this one. Super quickly, Aston Martin. Alonso started 10th and Stroll started 20th. That is literally all I have. Alonso P9, Stroll P16. So it's 2 points for Alonso. It's no points for Lance Stroll. One-stop strategy for Stroll. So no extra stops or anything. In fact, Gasly, Zhou, Piastri, Lawson all had 2 stops and were ahead of him. So I don't know how Stroll was 20th and ended up 16th, and 2 of those positions were gained by DNFs. I don't know, but not great from Lance Stroll this weekend. I know he had his issues in practice, but not good at all. Thank you. Aston Martin are going to save me here with some quotes. I have nothing. I recall seeing Alonso at one stage in some kind of train or battle or something, but I don't really recall seeing him a lot on TV. I mean, there was a lot going on, to be fair. Super quick drink. So I'll read you what Fernando says. It was a very difficult race today, and it was one of the most physically challenging of the year. We will take many lessons from this weekend and look to be better next time. I had some hope we might be able to catch Lewis Hamilton when he had the penalty, but as soon as he passed Alex Albon, I knew it would be difficult. Ferrari has unfortunately jumped in the Constructors' Championship after this result, so we need to bounce back at the next race. There are still a lot of races and points left in the championship. It's a fair point for Fernando, but he needs a teammate that's going to be scoring points consistently with him, because otherwise they've got no chance of overhauling Ferrari. And Lance Stroll said, the car didn't have the pace we needed today, so it was a tough race to manage. We tried to do something slightly different with the strategy and only stopped once, but the tyres were falling off towards the end of the stint, so I wasn't able to hold position. It's been a difficult weekend for us, so we have some work to do before we head to Singapore in a couple of weeks. So they tried to do something different, but actually their different was what the majority of the grid did. So I'm not sure if there was something else they were trying to do with the strategy that we missed, maybe a long run on the mediums, and maybe that's why. See if Mike Cracker said anything there on. Lance did a good job today. He moved ahead of the Haas and Alpine drivers, but he suffered with the tyres dropping off in the final part of the race. We always knew that Monza would not be a particularly kind track to us, and we have to take today's lessons into AMR 24. We'll work hard to be back in a more competitive position in Singapore. So, according to Mike Crack, who says there's no noticeable performance gap between Alonso and Stroll, Stroll had a good race today. He did a good job. Yeah. I'll make my point again. Ocon and Tsunoda, well, Ocon retired, Tsunoda didn't start the race, and the only people behind Lance who started last were the 2 Hasses who were crap on a Sunday. So, say what you will. Say what you will. Valtteri Bottas, Alfa Romeo, P10. What a performance. Where did he come from? It was one of those where I kind of just typing out the result to go along the ticker at the bottom, and I was like, Bottas was 10th. And I remember he used to that quite a lot. He did it at Mercedes a few times, but he was doing it last year with Alfa, where I'd sort of go, where the hell did he come from? But great drive from Bottas. Ran long on the hards and was running as high as P7 on lap 25. Pitted at the end of that lap for mediums. Rejoined down in P16 behind Gasly and just ahead of Stroll. Obviously did some overtaking to make his way through the field. Really good drive. And was, 17 seconds off Alonso, but he was 6.5 seconds up the road from Lawson. So it was a pretty comfortable P10 in the end. And what could be a really important point for Alfa Romeo, because they're only now a point behind Haas for P8 in the standings. And Sauber want a little bit of money for next year, and that's pretty decent. So well done to Valtteri Bottas there for his point today. But I couldn't tell you. I've got some pictures of him passing, I think, Sargent, but I couldn't tell you how he's pulled that off. It is a one-stopper, so it's not like he's tried something different on strategy. Maybe starting on the hards was the way to do it. He's up 4 positions, so maybe that was the right way to do it. Quicker tyres towards the end, only 24 laps on the mediums versus others who had done sort of 35 laps on the hards, 35 on the hards and things like that. So maybe things just worked his strategy. So really good stuff from Bottas today. I have nothing in my notes for Zhou Guanyu other than that he finished P14, and I haven't had the press release through. So apologies once again to, I think Pascal's the Alfa Romeo, the resident Alfa Romeo fan for the channel. So apologies, mate, that I've not got much on those. But if that comes through before the end of the stream, we will talk about them a little bit more. But I think Zhou, where was he? 1.6 off Sargent. Who was 5 off Piastri, but that's with the penalty as well, so that's a bit closer than that actually says it is. So yeah, I don't think awful from Zhou. Probably, again, weirdly, sort of a little bit like I said about McLaren, but probably more is the point with Alfa Romeo, that if you'd have said one of them finished 14th today, I wouldn't have been surprised at all. To be honest, that's kind of where I'd have expected them to be. So for Bottas to be 4 places up on that and in the points is a really great performance. So I'm really pleased to see them up there. And it feels like it's been ages since we've seen an Alfa Romeo point. And this is where I check it, and it was last weekend. You watch. What was the last Alfa Romeo point? It wasn't that long ago, surely. It was. Bloody hell, it was ages ago. The last time Alfa scored points was Canada, believe it or not. And that was, I'm assuming, Valtteri Bottas, who picked up 10th place. And then the race before that, Zhou picked up 2 in Spain. So it's been a long time since Alfa have picked up points. So even just 1 is something. And like I say, now just a point behind Haas. And I think if you're asking me today to make a prediction, which you're not, but I'm going to do it anyway, on who's going to finish ahead in the constructors, Haas or Alfa Romeo, I'd probably say Alfa, because whilst Haas qualify really well, as we saw with Hulkenberg yesterday, did a solid job, they just go backwards on a Sunday. So I think Alfa have got a shot here, Alfa Romeo of P9. So I'd absolutely go for that one. I'm predicting Alfa for P8. There you go. You got yourself a prediction. Anything you want me to say on Alfa Romeo super quickly? If you've got anything I've missed that's major, I see someone say Zhou was pretty anonymous today. Surprise Bottas appearance, says Kaori. So yeah, not an awful lot, is there? So people talking about language there. I'm not going to get into that one. That's a different conversation. But nothing really. Yeah, Alfa existed, says Jamie. So yeah, if the press release comes through, I'll come back to them. If I forget, then by the sounds of it, I've not missed anything major. Yeah, I suppose that's a point actually. Yeah, from Moray there, Porsche pretty much guaranteed the F2 championship. I'm not going to agree on the pretty much guaranteed part, but he is favourite, and the reason I won't agree on the pretty much guaranteed part is because it's F2 and you just never bloody know, do you? Or I mean, what was it last race? Both the championship contenders had bad weekends and crashed out. So a few races. What we got left? Is there only Yas Marina? Oh no, you might be right. There's only 1 race left. Yeah, you're probably right. Porsche pretty much guaranteed. I mean, you never know, but yeah, Frederick. I felt a bit for Vesti today actually. Stanek, I'm surprised didn't get dealt with a bit more heavily there actually. But yeah. Why is there this massive gap? Why is it? Because it's just the flyaway races. We just get this. It's the same on next year's calendar. You have F2 in Monza, and then we don't see them for about 16 years, or what feels like it. So I don't know if that's just because it's flyaways and they don't want to keep flying everything over to Singapore and Japan and Mexico, Brazil and Qatar and all of that. So yeah, there you go. Some more on Alfa for you. The other Alfa Tauri. Yuki Tsunoda, bless him, stopped on the way to the grid, mechanical issue, possible engine failure. In fact, I've got their press release through, so I can tell you what the official line is on that one. Let's see. Didn't know the exact reason for the retirement yet, but we'll investigate. Obviously, no reliability issue would have been nice, said Yuki Tsunoda. I love that. Obviously, we prefer not to fail to finish or fail to start. And Claudio Balestri, the chief engineer, vehicle performance at AlphaTauri, said that it was a power unit issue, an issue with the power unit on the formation lap, which stopped the car on track. So that is why the day failed in the end for Yuki Tsunoda, who didn't even make it to the grid, and actually caused a bit of drama early on, didn't he? Because they couldn't move the car because it was apparently stuck in gear. So they had to wait for a recovery truck, which meant we got an extra formation lap and an aborted start. So the race was actually 2 laps shorter than it should have been. A race, by the way, which was, I think, the 9th shortest in F1 history, 1 hour and 13 minutes. So it didn't take long to complete that one. It did fly by because it literally did, but it also flew by because it was so entertaining. But that caused a few things. Actually, that's the thing on Alfa. Actually, I did make it to put in my notes that when the race was looking like it was going to be a suspended start or a delayed start or whatever they wanted to call it, there were 2 Alfa mechanics, possibly others as well, but I only saw the Alfa ones on the world feed, who were at the side of the track on the grid before authorization had come from race control. I'm surprised there wasn't that wasn't looked into, whether or not the team might just get a talking to afterwards, whether there was some miscommunication, you never know. But that whole thing, I'm not going to get into it today, but that whole thing was about as clear as mud, which is pretty much how things go in Formula One anyway, so no great surprises. But anyway, Tsunoda, poor guy, nothing for him today, didn't even get to race, which, AlphaTauri's home Grand Prix as well. Disappointing for him, I'm sure. Hopefully get racing in Singapore. That could be a lot of fun. Liam Lawson, though, what can I say? Well, I'll tell you what I'll say. Bloody brilliant this weekend. Don't forget, this is a guy who's only in his 2nd Grand Prix weekend. His first weekend, it isn't affected by rain in Formula One as well. Started in 12th, finished 11th. Doesn't sound all that spectacular. Yes, of course, Piastri and Sargent got their penalties, but still, he was there to pick up the pieces when those penalties fell his way, and that little bit of luck to get picked. But it's not luck, is it? He drove really, really well. Even if he'd been 13th to that, still equals his record in Zandvoort, and it still equals what Daniel Ricciardo did, and only 1 place worse off than Nick De Vries achieved. So that actually moves him ahead of De Vries and Ricciardo in the championship. Still no points, but, he's only done 2 races. Give him a chance. He had a shot today. I think, it only takes one mistake. Maybe Bottas, it doesn't go quite so well for him, and Lawson's nicking a point. So that's where he needs to be. And I think that's a really great performance, all things considered, for him. So really good stuff. He was still off the line, by the way. I was watching him at the start. Lost a couple of places, but made it back round the outside of Bottas, I think it was, at turn 2 on the first lap. Yeah, that's all I've got for him. I kept watching him, and his laps were pretty impressive as well. He pitted the 2nd time. Don't forget that. So there's an extra pit stop in there as well versus Bottas. So only 6.5 seconds behind. That could have been a point without a pit stop, but he needed that. Couldn't get the tyres all the way. Pace was really good, really strong. He's doing what he needs to do for me to, at the very least, put himself in the conversation for next year for that seat, and certainly for 2025. I think there'll be a lot there, but I think do you know what? He's doing what he needs to do. He's going to force AlphaTauri into making a decision at the end of the year, and that's what he needs to do in these races. He's got, it sounds awful, but fortunate what happened to Ricciardo that's given him this opportunity, and he needs to grasp that opportunity, and that's exactly what he's doing, and he's delivering. Yes, I know I'm biased here, but I don't care. He's been superb this weekend, and it doesn't feel like points are that far away. He might need that little bit of luck, like a Bottas making a mistake or somebody retiring ahead, but he doesn't feel like he's that far off the points. And actually, yes, they're not far off Tsunoda as well in terms of pace. And Tsunoda's been in that team for 3 years now in that car all season. So I think he's staking a claim, but I'll calm down a little bit, because all it takes is one stupid error in Singapore and Helmut Marko changes his view. You know what he's like. But yeah, really great stuff from Lawson. Kind of what it does do, though, and I'm not trying to make out like, if, try and say something like, if Lawson can do it, then what could Tsunoda have achieved? Like trying to dump on what Lawson's done. But I do wonder, could Tsunoda have been in the points today had he started that race? Because, again, I'm saying it, but I'm not trying to dump on what Lawson's done. You think that Tsunoda, with the full season in that car, how well he's done this season, generally speaking, maybe he would have been in the points today. We will never know, but I think really great performance from Lawson today, and it's a shame we didn't see more from Tsunoda, but nothing you can do about that one. Not his fault. Thank you very much, by the way, to April for your super chat. Says, hey all, hope this finds everyone sassy and healthy. Thank you very much, April. You know the channel. We're always, I don't know about healthy. I can be quite sassy, but I don't know about healthy, but yes. Very good. Thank you very much, April, for your support there. Why does that keep coming up on there? Anyway, yes. Where are we up to? Let's get through the rest of the field then, and then we'll do some Q&A and driver of the day and all of that business that we usually do. Gasly, P15, Ocon, DNF. They did bang wheels, I believe, into on the first lap through that first chicane, I think it was. It was the first chicane, wasn't it, between Gasly and Ocon? Bit of banging of wheels at the start. No damage done. Gasly had a slow stop on lap 10, 5.9 seconds with a slow front jack. Second stop wasn't really quick either. 3 seconds, it was better, but still 3 seconds. So that's maybe 3 seconds lost there in total for his pit stops, and he was 2.3 behind Zhou and only a further 1.6 off Sargent in 13th. So, look, what can I say about Alpine? Ocon, Russell, we've talked about the Russell incident, correct decision. Then had an issue, I think he said steering lacking massively into turn 8 and then pitted at the end of that lap to retire. So obviously a mechanical issue there, but Alpine about what I expected. In fact, I don't actually think 15th is a bad result for Gasly, given where they were yesterday in terms of their straight line speed. That Renault is down on power, we know that, and a track like Monza, that's going to really show it off. You're really going to see that. So I actually think Gasly did all right to be 15th, finished ahead of Stroll, Hülkenberg and Magnussen in cars that perhaps in a straight line you'd expect to be a bit quicker. So I think that's really decent from Gasly. It's not amazing, but it's all right. And Ocon, obviously, the DNF, not his fault, so feel a little bit for him, but Formula One, you're going to get it from time to time, aren't you? And hopefully somewhere like Singapore is better for them. It should be. I know you've got the is it Raffles Boulevard, the really long run, and then you've got the bridge as well, which is quite a long straight. And actually, no, stop. The layout's changed, hasn't it? The layout's changing for this year. You've got quite a long run now, so maybe that won't be great for them, but a bit more downforce in Singapore might be good, might help them out. So hopefully a better weekend next weekend, but I think there's some tracks coming up that might suit them quite nicely. So hopefully back in the point soon for Alpine. And last and, least, bless them, Haas. I haven't got a word on Hülkenberg and Magnussen. I'm going to find their quotes for you. But Hülkenberg, 17th from 13th on the grid. Magnussen started 19th, finished 18th and last today. Anybody surprised that Haas, who all season have qualified decently, in Hülkenberg's case at least, and then disappeared on Sunday and fallen back from the field? Is anyone surprised they've fallen through the field? Did you think we might get more today? I'll come to in a minute, but Hülkenberg said the start was pretty much the only positive, to be honest, the only bit of fun. After that, very hard work. Singapore is high downforce, so I feel that things will get back to normal. I feel like this is normal a little bit for them, falling through the field, but I think they would have been more competitive, something like Singapore. I agree with him there. We can at least be competitive in the midfield is what their goal is for Singapore. K-Mag says it was probably the worst race as we just had no pace at all. The tyres were falling apart and there was no balance. We have a steep hill to climb. There was just no pace and we need to turn the ship around. And Gunther Steiner says there's not a lot to say except the car is just not fast enough. You always try to do your best, but the car has no performance and that's where you end up when you cannot compete. I think that's fair enough. Nothing really to add on Haas. Just really disappointing to see them disappear on a Sunday again. But again, it's not really a great surprise, is it? So there we go. We'll see what happens. See what happens in Singapore. But I think Haas are going to struggle to hang on to that 8th place, I've already said. Anything? We've come to the end of the field within an hour, which for me is bloody impressive, by the way. It usually takes me longer than that. So anything on particularly Haas or Alfa Romeo was some kind of, I don't know what that was flying overhead, but was low flying for sure. Apologies if that picked up on the mic, but Lincolnshire, Bomber County, we occasionally get stuff like that happening. I think the Red Arrows were faffing about the other day over something. Bastards. So anything on in particular Haas and Alfa Romeo? If not, then we'll go into what was I say? Go into driver of the day, won't it? Next, yes. There we go. I don't know if Ray Ninja talking to somebody else. I don't know. Possibly. If not, then cool. But I'm not sure what's going on there. So try and be nice to each other if you can do. I've said it a million times. I just, especially this year, I just can't be arsed. I don't mind you being tribal, not you specifically, but fans in general. I don't mind if you have your biases, that's fine, but just Be respectful to each other. I'm getting too old to deal with it. I can't be arsed. Absolutely can't be asked. Yeah, is it? Okay, fair enough. So, yeah, nothing to say on those. So, driver of the day then. Officially, Carlos Sainz. Let me know one surname. I will, of course, read some of those out as well, who you've picked. Let me know later on as well if you're watching this as a VOD. Let me know in the comments with an emoji or anything like that. So let me know who you've gone for driver of the day. So go on, chat. Who have you got? Sainz got the official one. I think Sainz possibly, unless I'm way off, I think probably for his defensive driving more than anything. Because when you look at it on paper, I'll finish your point, but when you look at it on paper, first to third doesn't look great. But when you consider the race and the defending he had to do and the fact that the Red Bulls we know are massively quick, it's actually a really good result and really good. And I can completely understand why people voted for him. But I look at the chat already going with a lot of Albon, but I kind of feel like for all the grief I give him, I should probably give Perez a nod today and maybe give him it for a change. He is in the fastest car. We know that. Fact. It's not me trying to cause trouble. It's genuinely fact. It is the fastest car out there. It's insane in the hands of Max Verstappen, but it's still the fastest car, even at the hands of Perez. So he should be up there. So coming from 5th to 2nd might not seem spectacular, but he had to really fight hard for it. And it was tough against those Ferraris. So I think Perez is a fair pick, but it's the defending from Sainz that it was over the line at times, but I like that he went for it. I like that he knew, as I said earlier, he had to, if he was going to stop Verstappen today, he had to be aggressive, and that's what he went with, so it's tough. But I think, looking at chat without spoiling anything, a lot of Sainz, a lot of Albon, so I'm between Checo and Sainz, to be honest. I should have decided this for the streams or not. I mean, I could give it to Lawson and be completely biased and just completely ruin the integrity of the entire stream, which it often happens, let's be honest. So I could just go with that, but yeah, it is. Sorry, I'm looking at chat and answering questions in there, but no, I think I'll go Perez just to keep it. It really could be any one of, and you could say Verstappen. He had to fight hard for that, managing issues at the end, really strong drive. You could give it to him. Perez is worth it, I think. So I think Leclerc as well, to a point. I think he was super quick. But Albon as well, and Bottas coming through to P10. There are quite a few, but I'll pick Perez today because I've been a bit hard on him lately, and it's a bit unfair for me to sit here and say that he should be on the podium when he's starting down in 5th place, and then when he doesn't do it, I give him criticism, and then when he does actually get there, I don't give him the credit. So I just think as well, with just because Sainz over the line a little bit, I've always said with things like that I tend to lean away from them for driver of the day. It's just a personal thing. It's like somebody gets a penalty, I'm never giving them driver of the day if it's for a driving standards thing. So I'll go with Perez for a laugh. I know a yinker. It's shocking, isn't it? Let's have a look then. So Jamie says it has to be Carlos. Random says Sainz. Kaori says Sainz. KMS Boss says Albon. Dory says Albon as well. Azare says Sainz. I'm going to keep butchering your name. One day I'll get there. Or Azair. Is it Azair? Azair sounds more likely. Sainz. Dell says Sonoda. We made it interesting at the start, Dell, that's for sure. Klaas says Albon. Valentine says Sainz. Blob Fishy says Albon. Rufus has gone with Albono. Fanta Boy says Sainz. Gecko Gamer says Albon. Sam's gone with glad Sainz won. Voted for Albon, though. Albon for Yafunkel. I butchered that yesterday, didn't I? Charles says Stoff. Charles always says Stoff. I love Charles. He deserves to be here forever. Bill Asher says, you all do, but he keeps saying Stoff, so there you go. Bill Asher says Checo 100%. Adam Osborne says Sainz. Zach says Max, classic champions drive. Pushed Carlos into ruining his tyres and took no risks, but the second Carlos made a mistake, he lunged and never looked back. Really fair point, actually, Zach. It's a very good point. Moray says Albon. Yinka said Verstappen. Frank Azui, Bottas, Albon, and Sainz all did a stunning job. I'm not trying to be a hipster. I didn't know that. I saw this the other day on a different stream. People saying that praising Perez makes you hipster now. I had no idea that was a thing, but there you go. Didn't really rate Albon's drive today. That car was fast in a straight line. Didn't really work for it. Says I'm gonna. You know who you are. I'm just going to... That'll do. We'll get there in the end. We'll get it right eventually. A couple more. Moray says Tsunoda as well. Mark says Alonso. Fair enough. F1 Raw and Uncut says Sainz. It's Asari. There you go. I'll try. I'm going to screenshot that again. You're going on the board. You're going up there with Kaori on the board, so I don't get it wrong next time. Any other option? The Chris Sean says Thomas. Not sure what you mean. Come back to me, mate. I'm not sure what you mean. A couple more. Agura says Albon. Joe says Albon. Why are there things? Says Albon all the way. Davidus says Carlos. Jonty's given Tsunoda commiseration driver of the day. There you go. And Laurie says Bottas driver of the day. So there we go. Thank you very much. Pascal as well saying Bottas. I'm glad you're here, Pascal. Sorry I've not talked about Alfa enough, mate. It's difficult when they don't send me their press release and I don't see anything of them, but there we go. Oh, Chris, yes, that was it, Thomas. Chris Albon. That was the meme that year from testing streams, wasn't it? That I kept calling him Chris Albon for some reason and we couldn't work out why. And I think it was something to do with Blur, possibly. I don't know, but there you go. So that's your driver of the day. I'll go Perez. Just be hipster. Apparently, there you go. If you have any questions, please do pop them in chat. I'll come to them. I'll go out to super chats as well, and we'll do some quick fire stuff tonight as well. If there's anything I've missed, please do throw that towards me as well, and I'll mention it. Genuinely missed, not something you've made up just for a lol. You know, oh, well, what about when Stroll went backwards for 3 laps? You know, I mean, basically his career. But let's stop it. We're not making up, but anything you want me to say, then I'll do that. And I'll have a look for press release as well in a bit. Please do leave a like as well. 156 likes, 451 of you are still here. So please do leave a like. Really appreciate it. Like I say, channel could really do with the support right now. 451 viewers. 711 votes on the poll, which I'm going to close now. So please do drop a like as well. Don't forget to subscribe. Lots to come this season and all that good stuff as well. If you've got a question that you have to ask or the world will implode, you can do so through Super Chat. I have to read them as long as they're within YouTube community guidelines, but I will always come to chat, so there is never any pressure to do that. So thank you very much for your support. Rate the 2023 Italian Grand Prix. 44% said good, 38% said great, average 15% and bad 1%. I think it was great. I would have voted great. I'm not saying good is bad, because it isn't. It's sort of the opposite, but I actually, that was a really great race. And like I say, I enjoyed that more than Zandvoort because it was more about the racing than it was about the rain coming and causing a bit of drama and chaos. I think that was much more enjoyable as a racing fan, if that makes sense. So there you go. Is it fundamentally possible to overtake on the outside in turn 1? Why should it not be, says Dell. Is it fundamentally possible? Yeah, of course it is. We've seen moves around the outside of turn 1, then up the inside of turn 2, haven't we, at Monza? So I think it is possible. We've seen it. So you've got to. I think you've got to be prepared that the driver on the inside is going to run you wide. That they're going to push you off, aren't they? Or they're gonna leave you just enough space, but make you think, crap, I better bail out of this one. So you've got to be prepared for that. Which goes back to the point you were making at the very, very start before the stream started, Del, about how maybe there needs to be a conversation about the rules and what is, is it a car's width or is it a car's width and then a little bit more that you need to leave so that you're not just effectively, not physically, but effectively pushing people off track. So you can do it, but it's not an easy move. Definitely not. Hamilton did it twice, Class says today. So it happens. CPB, for God's sake, one day I will get it right. CPB1 says, when will you and John to do that master stream? I'll speak to Jonty about that at some point this week. I will do. You're welcome, Paula Miller. Thank you very much for coming along and joining me today for a bit of a waffle. Sean, waffle? Never. I'm not having it. So it's always fun. Always fun after a race. There are things I need to change. This could be on the chopping block for next season, but I suspect I'm probably going to be hunted down and brutally murdered if I even suggested it, and I just did, so I'm probably screwed now. But we'll see. We'll see. Things. No, I'm not doing it today. I'm not doing it. We've had a good race. Let's be positive. Vesk says the race could have been a lot better if we had actual battle for first, so I can't really give it great. Do you mean like a race song battle, Vesk? Because I think we did have a good battle for first, but I can understand why people might want it to be a bit longer than 14 laps or whatever it was. But yeah, no, I get what I understand. Yeah, it's opinions. People can vote for whatever they want to put bad. They can put bad if they want. But I think it was great. But good isn't a bad result. So some of the polls we've done this season, good isn't a bad result at all. So I'm quite happy with that. Dell's sort of followed up on his point. Says it's only possible if the other driver cooperates. If they don't, like Sainz on lap 1 to 51, it isn't. It's it is. Like I say, it's possible. But as you said it, we both said it, haven't we? You're relying on the other driver not shoving you off the track. So let's go back to the. Yes, thank you, Gecko Gamer. I'm coming back to Super Chats now. You just reminded me. Vesk. Vesk said, should wind tunnel CFD time be proportional to the points you have rather than the position Red Bull are winning by such a large margin? I mean, they said after, I think it was Sky said after the race today that they'd already, for the last few races, already focused on next year now, Red Bull. So God knows where we're going to be this time next year, probably in a very similar position. It could be a few years of dominance. So if you're not enjoying it, then sorry, but it happens in Formula One sometimes. It does feel like this is very different with the dominance, doesn't it? I will say that. I don't think so. I like it as it is, to be honest. I quite like it. I think when you start making it proportional to points, you start to overcomplicate it. And I think, you finish first, you get the least. You finish last. I mean, I suppose actually technically, I was going to say you finish first, you get the least. You finish last, you get the most. But technically speaking, even if it's proportional to points, the team first are still going to get the least, aren't they? And then team in last is still going to get the most. But I think I like it as it is. I don't think it needs to be much more or any more overcomplicated or any more complicated than it already will be. So it's an interesting one, though. Let me know what you think, chat. It's a thinker, that's for sure. That's for sure. Who else asked questions in the super chats? I answered that one from Stefan, didn't I? Gecko Gamer says, will Williams continue to outscore Alpine, or was this an exception? We touched on this last week with Williams, or the week before with Williams outscoring Alpine, didn't we? I think they can. I just don't know what tracks we've got. Where's the calendar, Sean? Let's have a look on the old interweb. So we've got Singapore coming up, which we've got a couple of big runs in that, so that might help Williams a little bit, but it might be better towards Alpine. Japan, pretty decent straight line, start-finish straight, and then you've got the run from Spoon to 130R. So that could be. So I think Williams have got a chance of outscoring. Yeah, I think Williams have got a chance of outscoring Alpine in full between now and the end of the season. So what I mean by that is from Singapore to Abu Dhabi, if you add up the points from each team, I think Williams will have gained more in that time. But I don't think Williams are under any chance of catching Alpine in the constructors, if that's sort of what you're getting at as well, because I think if they'd need a lot. 50-odd points in the last few races is not going to happen. So I think they've got a chance. They seem to be in a really good place. They're moving forward, but I don't think it won't be every weekend, I guess is my answer to that. I think Alpine will come good at some tracks. This anything that's going to be predominantly about power, Alpine are going to struggle. So that's kind of where I'm at with that one. I hope so. Nothing against Alpine, but I just love Williams to have a really strong finish to the season. And there was another one, wasn't there? Yes, there was. It was from, I don't know, just changing my name. It says, speaking of respecting drivers, does Albon move from Williams this off-season? Short answer, no. Long answer, no. Little bit longer answer. They've been pretty clear, Williams, that he's locked down for the next few years. So I don't see Albon moving before 2026 or before the end of 2025 for 2026. Honestly, I think he'll be at Williams this year and next year. Not this year, next year, this coming year and the following year. That's what I'm saying, 24 and 25. And then maybe in 26 it'll be interesting. But one thing I didn't talk about, that's reminded me, was Lewis Hamilton and George Russell's deal at Mercedes that we were supposed to about yesterday and I forgot. They're now into the end of 2025. And I've got to say, I haven't got to say, I'm going to say, I'm a little bit surprised. A few people saying 2 years is what they expected, but I'm a little bit surprised that, particularly with Lewis Hamilton, he's committed to 2 years. Now, the reason I say that is not as a dig at Mercedes and not because he's not loyal to the team, but because next year there are a lot of seats opening up at other teams. Some teams who are moving really nicely forward, and some teams who, have got very good cars. And I'm just surprised he's not kept his options open for next year's driver market for 2025, if you follow me. So I guess the point I'm getting to is I wouldn't be surprised if, like Sebastian Vettel had at Red Bull when he left at the end of 2014, I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't a performance clause in there somewhere where Hamilton can say, look, you're not where I want you to be, or if we're not at this point in the championship, or I'm not in this position, then I'm allowed to talk to other teams. I wouldn't be surprised if that's in there. A couple of people in chat, Built 2JZ Lexus, and Jamie says maybe it's 1+1. It's definitely 2 years. Mercedes have said they're both at the team until the end of 2025. But I'm not trying to cause speculation for the sake of speculation, but I'm just looking at it from a Lewis Hamilton point of view. Coming towards 40 years old, definitely in the final years of his career, wants to win that 8th World Championship, wants to be back to fighting for regular wins. If he's in that Mercedes next year and they haven't taken the step forward he wanted them to take, and there are lots of seats opening up everywhere, 2 seats at Ferrari, unlikely to happen, but there is 1 seat at Red Bull. You never know. I doubt it, though. Aston Martin will have seats available, or a seat available, so we don't know what's going to happen there. I'm just surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of clause in there. It's kind of... John T says Toto specifically said there weren't performance clauses on Friday. Toto says a lot. He's not as... I wouldn't totally believe... There must be there'll be something in there that gives Hamilton an out if he wants it. But then having said that, and we always come to this with contracts, Nico Rosberg signed a new deal with Mercedes and then disappeared at the end of the season, so in 2016. So you never know. But if Toto's saying there isn't one there, then I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say that maybe I'm wrong and there isn't one. But I just feel like I would have... If I were Lewis Hamilton, which I'm not, but if I were, then I would probably want the get out clause if needed, is what I was saying that. But I'm not, but just to confirm, I'm not even remotely surprised about this. I saw some people talk about him retiring at the end of the year. How can I word this? It isn't going to get me in trouble. I don't want Lewis Hamilton as a driver or a person to retire at the end of the year, but there are some things that would happen if he did retire that wouldn't be the end of the world on the social media side of things. Let's put it that way. Don't want Hamilton to retire. I want as many world champions on this grid as possible. If we can get back to the days of 6 or 7, that'd be amazing. But I'll let you all read into that what you want to, but it's nothing against him at all. But yeah, not surprising the slightest. I still think this is going to be very static in the driver market, but I think the only real question marks are AlphaTauri and I don't want to say Zhou Guanyu because I think he should be staying. I think he's earned that right to stay, but that's not how F1 works sometimes, is it? But I don't think Logan Sargent's on his way out from what James Vowles is saying, so I think it's going to stay quite static. But we'll leave it there. I just wanted to say that on Mercedes, but what other options were there for Hamilton? That's the other question, I suppose, isn't it? But that's maybe one for another day. But I didn't believe the Ferrari stuff. He was never going to go to Red Bull to replace Perez if they did want to make a change. He's not going to replace Stroll at Aston Martin. And Alonso ain't going anywhere. I can't see him going back to McLaren. I couldn't see him going back to McLaren this year if he hadn't signed his contract. Alpine was not going to happen. Williams, no. Haas, no. Alfa Romeo, no. AlphaTauri, no. So really, it was only Mercedes, wasn't it? But, at the same time, he's been pretty clear all year that he's staying and serve Mercedes. So it's not a surprise. That's why there was no video on Thursday. I did think about it, but I thought, what's the point? What's the point in doing a reaction video to the news that Lewis Hamilton is staying, which we knew, and that George Russell is... That was the most surprising part, was George Russell sticking another year on. But even that's not that surprising because it's Mercedes. And a couple of people talking in chat actually about Kimi. I've forgotten his last name now. Let me try and find where Kimi... Chat, save me. What's his last name? The young lad they've just promoted straight from F3 into F2. Antonelli. There we go. Kimi Antonelli. They've kind of gone almost full Verstappen with him, haven't they? They've skipped F3 straight into F2. So Hamilton 2 years. Russell staying till the end of 2025 as well. That gives that lad a few years in F2 so they can really assess him there. And maybe, just maybe, that's what they're thinking for 26. But apparently Hamilton's already thinking about the next contract, so who knows? He could be here for a very long time, and like Fernando Alonso, I hope he is. As long as they're performing and they're quick enough, then, and they are, let's face it, then yeah, stay. I want as many champions on this grid as possible. I miss the days when we had so many champions on the grid. It felt like everyone was a champion. But yeah, he is very young, but we'll see how he gets on, won't we? And it's a bold call, but you don't have to do F3 and F2, do you? I mean, what did Kimi Raikkonen do? I think he did a shift at Tesco, and then it was in F1. It was about Kimi Raikkonen's junior career, wasn't it? There wasn't an awful lot of it. So there you go. What else you said in the chat then? Let's do some more questions, and then we'll wrap up for today. We're only an hour and 20 minutes, which is a miracle for me. It's because I'm a little bit giddy today, so I'm just flying through the order and just want to talk to you all about F1 rather than being too serious about it all. But yes, yeah, I've checked it. It's definitely 2 years for Lewis, because they confirmed it's 2025, end of 2025. So, CPB says, unpopular opinion: Red Bull should keep Perez until someone like Norris is available. I don't think that's that unpopular. Not in the chat anyway. Not with me. You might get a bit of kickback on somewhere like Twitter or whatever they're calling it, which is what it should be called. But you might get a bit of kickback on there, but I don't think that's controversial or unpopular at all. I think unless a Liam Lawson or a Yuki Tsunoda or a Daniel Ricciardo really does smash it in that car next year, why not hang on for a Norris? But I could see Norris at Red Bull alongside Verstappen. It's whether he wants to go there and face Verstappen at what is arguably his prime. It's a terrifying prospect, isn't it? Definitely. So it's a fair point. I just think, Lawson started really well. Only 2 races. We'll see what he does between now and whenever Daniel Ricciardo's back. We'll see what Danny Rick can do when he gets back, and potentially into next season, what Tsunoda does. But I don't, with Tsunoda, I don't feel like he's in that conversation for the Red Bull seat, which seems really stupid. But when you look at all the rumours, it's Ricciardo and saying, oh, what about Lawson, because he's another junior, and talk of Norris. And I sort of think, Yuki's doing really well this year, and Helmut Marko can't shut up about how well he's doing, and he's really grown and matured as a driver. And whatever you think of his consistency or whatever, he is bloody rapid. And I said that when he was in F2. He's rapid. F3, sorry. He's rapid and F2. Was he in F2, Yuki, or did he jump straight to... I can't really remember now with Yuki. I think he did F2, didn't he? He must have done. Yeah, because he went F3, F2, F1, didn't he, in 3 years? That was right. But he's just rapid. So, yeah, he did. That's fine. I thought I was losing my mind then. I'm just surprised he's not more in that conversation, but there we go. What is the percentage chance of Zhou losing his seat? Would they wait to Abu Dhabi F2 finale to announce Porsche has super licenses already, so not a Logan situation, says Aiden. If in the perfect world it was based solely on performance, I think it should be 100% Zhou keeps that seat, but it's not going to be based solely on performance. They've got to think about what Audi, AUDI, the car people, might want to do. They've got to think about the long term. Porsche is their junior. They don't want to just stick him in a reserve role because he won't be able to race next year in F2. So Johnson's right in with Johnson's been pedantic. 50%, either he loses it or he doesn't. I don't like talking about it. You remember Jeremy Kyle when he used to do his lie detector results, and he'd say to them, "Oh, what are the chances you're going to pass this?" And they go 50%. It's like, well, yeah, either you will or you won't. Fucking hell. There are some morons out there. But anyway, back to the point and back to me being a moron. But yeah, no, I think they're going to want to make a decision on Porsche. They don't want to stick him on the sidelines for too long, do they? Because he can't be in F2 next year if he wins the title, which it looks like he will do. But I just think Zhou's done a really decent job, and he's not far off Bottas. I haven't updated the stats for this weekend because obviously after a race I'm getting the stream ready, so I can't go putting numbers into a thing. But if we just go through up to and including yesterday's qualifying, Zhou and Bottas. So Bottas's average position is 14.07. Zhou's average position is 15.14. So there's only a position in it there. Finishing position before today's results, 13.30 for Bottas, 13.45 for Zhou. The qualifying head-to-head is very one-sided. Well, it's not actually. No, Bottas 8.6 overall. And then where they both set a lap, it's 8.5. I like to do both just in case. And then the race battle before this weekend was 9-4, where they both finish, and where one doesn't finish, it's 7-4. So there's nothing in it between them. So I think he's earned another year, but it's going to come down to what they decide to do with this. Apparently, the budget running out for him, the backing he's got from China. But I will always say offset that with the money that Audi, the car manufacturer, AUDI, are already putting into the team, and the fact that Chinese Grand Prix is back next year and how marketable he's going to be that weekend and in the build-up that weekend. I might be able to offset some of that, so that might help them. But I just think he's earned it. But it's not going to come down to just what he's performed, is it? It's going to come down to money. It'll come down to what they want to do with Porsche. But I think if Alfa do move Zhou on, and Williams haven't got somebody to replace Sargent if they do make a change, I don't see why that couldn't happen. But I think Zhou's done all right. I really do. And I've just read the stats there that kind of back that up. And it's not like Bottas has been amazing this year, is it? It's been really good this weekend to get a point, but not like he's blown anybody away. I mean, what the point situation? 6 and 4. Not a lot in it. So that's just my view on Zhou. I know I'm probably in the minority with Zhou, but there you go. I'm in the minority with a lot of things that I say, or I feel like I am sometimes. I think the only person who replaced Sargent is Schumacher, says Moray. I think Vesti might be a shout, but Vesti will probably do another year in F2 if he doesn't win the title now. So that actually, Vesti's incident today might cause Sauber more of a headache than it might have caused Mercedes. Because obviously if Vesti wins the championship, they might want to try and get him in a Williams, and they might have to fight for that one. With Porsche looking like he's going to win it, Sauber have now got to start with. But then Sauber might do a deal with somebody else. They might sit him somewhere. They might send him off to Super Formula, like Red Bull did with Liam Lawson, see how he gets on over there. You never know. He might just be reserved for a year and be in for 20. It's all about the long term with that team. I keep saying it. 2025 lineup's going to be fast. There's so many drivers available next year, and if they can encourage drivers like Carlos Sainz is heavily linked, or crazy as it sounds, even a Charles Leclerc, if they can convince them that the Audi project is worth being a part of and they've got the potential to deliver, big ask, I know, then they might be able to convince somebody like a Leclerc, for example, to go there. I still don't think that the whole thing with Lando Norris is off the table because of the links to Andreas Seidel. It might happen. So maybe that's where Porsche comes in 2025 with whoever else is coming in to lead that team into 2026 when they take over. It'll be really interesting, but that's a team to watch long term, and that's what their decision will have to be. But that's why I think they might leave it for next year and then give Porsche a year as reserve, kind of learn the ropes a bit behind the scenes. It worked for Piastri all right, didn't it? And then he can have the seat the following year. We shall see. Or keep Zhou and Porsche at Sauber and Bottas gets a top seat in WRC, says CPB1. Behrman, I think it was about people maybe swapping places. So Behrman is likely to stay at Prema. That could be, I think Behrman's done all right this season, hasn't he? So if it was a 53-lap race, would Verstappen have won with his issues? Asks Adam Osborne. Let's have a look. So there'd be 2 more laps, wouldn't there? Yes. So it was 1.6 slower than Perez on that final lap. So that would be 3.2 over 2 laps. So yeah, he would just have done it on times. But obviously we don't know have we got officially what the issue was? Because if it was a serious issue where the car was literally dying, then no, he wouldn't have done. But in terms of the gaps and the pace he was doing, he would have hung on just by about 3-ish seconds. So it's a good point, though. I don't know what the issue is, though. But yeah, and the Max says, would Perez have been... That's a good point, actually. They were going for that record, weren't they? They might have even asked Perez just to stay back. He had 5 seconds over Sainz as well, so they might have just told him to hold position anyway. So he probably still would have done. Hello, McLaren F1 race. Says, what's up? Oh, that's a blast from the past. We have the Alfa Romeo press release through, so I will read you what the drivers said, because we didn't get to say much about them. So, Valtteri Bottas, I don't know what the accent was about, but you got it. There you go. Love an accent. It was a terrible one. Points were the target today, and also a bit Welsh. Welsh meets the Count from Sesame Street. I don't know what the accent was, but there you go. Points were the target today, and we achieved that. It's nice to be back in the top 10, as it has been a while. It may be just 1 point, but it is good to reward for the job done by our team this weekend. Been a clean race from our side. Our pace had slightly improved after qualifying. We nailed our strategy, helped us have some clean air and keep us out of trouble. Overall, it was safe to say it has been a good day in the office today. So Bottas did run long, didn't he? He ran to lap 25. And then Lawson, so he would have undercut Lawson on those fresher tyres. Piastri Zhou and Gasly as well. So we'd have undercut all of those. So that's 4 cars, which bumps him up because he rejoined. Did I write down where he rejoined? I did not. Yes, I did P16. So that puts him P 1, 2, 3. That puts him P12. Then you've got the penalties for P. Yeah, no, it was the strategy. So good stuff from the team there. And Zhou Guanyu says, because I have nothing on poor Zhou, says, I'm glad to see Valtteri bring home points from this race, a point that helps us close the gap to Haas. Considering the results we had Friday and Saturday, we made a massive step forward, which is encouraging for the races ahead. I believe that overall it has been a clean race from my side. Valtteri and I were on different tyre strategies. He started on hard tyres and I was on mediums, focusing on the Alpines in hope of undercutting them. In terms of pure pace, we were still behind Williams. For this reason, it'll be crucial to make the step forward in Singapore and keep on working to add new points to our tally. Yeah, so not a huge amount, really. It just sounds like a relatively straightforward race, I guess, is my summary of that one. So there you go. all that waiting for the flipping press releases, and that was what we got for Alfa Romeo. So there we go. Did Bottas fit? Yes, he did. He crossed the line in P10. He did. Yes, because Piastri was 11th. No, Sargent was 11th. Piastri was 12th, and Lawson was 13th. So it would have been. Now you've asked a question. You see, I think. Stick with me here. So that is Lewis Hamilton. So that's irrelevant for this point. That's George Russell, irrelevant for this point. So 16:34, Oscar Piastri got his penalty. 16:25 was Sargent. So Sargent got his penalty first. Then Piastri got his. So yeah, Bottas would have crossed the position in P10. So there you go. But in the end, Liam Lawson was 11th, Piastri 12th. And Sargent 13th after all penalties were applied. So there we go. McLaren F1 racer, Stroll bye-bye, go play tennis. I said it yesterday, it'd be hilarious if he just walked into Wimbledon and just nailed it and won it at his first attempt. And it's sort of like, well, you probably should have done that then, to be fair. Apparently, according to the Mac, my accent was pretty close to the actual real Finnish pronunciation. So there you go. Apparently, what I think is Welsh crossed with the Count from Sesame Street is Finnish. There we go. I'd look. That's a language I want to learn. I want to learn that language, but it's not easy. For a couple of reasons. One, I'm crap at learning languages anyway, and two, I'm British and we're quite ignorant with things like that at times. You should all be speaking English. I'm not Welsh. No, God, no. That sounded. I didn't mean that as in bad. I just meant, oh God, no, I'm not. I'm so far away from Welsh. I'm Lincolnshire. Yeah, I wasn't having to dig at the Welsh, definitely. Valentine says because 10. Thank you very much, mate, for your super chat, and I'm just hoping now Max Verstappen can win 1,000 in a row, because that's going to cause you problems, Valentine. Thank you very much, mate, for your support there. No, I was not anti-Welsh. I'm going to confirm that right now. I just meant as in, oh God, no, I'm so far away from being Welsh. It's almost unbelievable. That's what I meant. I am not anti-Welsh. I like the Welsh. I like the Welsh. I like the accent. That's a language I'd love to be able to speak or pronounce that long town name that I can't say or that nobody can say. Can you quote Little Britain in Welsh? I'm not doing I could do 3 accents relatively well. And I'm not going to do them. And I can do a what every Brit thinks an American accent is, which I'm also not going to do. So there you go. I'm currently trying to master a Scouse accent, but good God, do we have some weird accents over here that I can't do? I'm trying to come back to questions and you're all now talking about accents and you're confusing me now. We've talked about that one. Yeah, we've done that. I've done all the super chats as well, so we don't need to worry about that one. So any more questions, I will crack on. Martin says Leclerc is emotionally attached to Ferrari. He won't leave. When his father passed away, he lied that he is a Ferrari driver because it was his father's dream. Yeah, he said recently as well. I mean, that's an interesting story. Thank you, Martin. But there's also, he said recently, hasn't he, about wanting to win a championship with Ferrari because that is the dream and he wants to stay and do that. But I think the point I was making with Audi, I have to make sure I say Audi, is just that if they can convince a driver like a Leclerc not necessarily specifically him, that their project is worth being part of, then they might be able to get somebody like that in. But there's also the Jules Bianchi thing with Charles, isn't there? That link there. Bianchi was in line for a Ferrari seat if he continued to have performed. Obviously, sadly, we know couldn't. But I think that's something that probably, I don't want to put words in his mouth or anything like that, but I do feel that maybe plays on Leclerc a little bit. But I'd love to see Charles Leclerc win it. I'd love to see anybody win a title at Ferrari, to be honest. It's been so long, but it'd be nice to see Leclerc do it, because it would kind of feel like just a little bit sweeter for me personally, anyway. I know a few people feel the same, because deep down inside, there'll be lots of people that tell me I'm wrong on this, and they'll tell me no, but deep down inside, we all love Ferrari, really. Don't deny it. I know you do. I'm not arguing with you. You do. Everybody does. Even just a little bit. There's a little bit of love there for Ferrari. I know there's a lot of people that don't, so I'm going to get some stick for that one. But yeah, there you go. What number would you pick if you raced in F1? Says random. 7 or 24? 7 my mental age, 24 my physical age. No, 7 because I just like the number 7. 24 because it's my birthday. I wish I was 24 physically. 37. Anyway, but yeah, no, I think 24 for my birthday, or 7 for because I like the number, basically. So yeah. Ferrari needs to nail the 2026 regs. They do indeed. They absolutely do. I didn't expect to be as happy as I am seeing Williams do well, says Blobfishy. I'm always happy to see Williams do well. Well, no, that's a lie. I've lied to you. I am now, back in day, going back to the 90s, I was not happy to see Williams doing well, because they were stopping Michael Schumacher winning things. That's that one. If Kimi goes to F2, Vesti and Behrman stays in Prema, how will Kimi get a seat? I think he's been confirmed at Prema, hasn't he? I'll double check for you. I'm pretty confident he has. I have to go through quite a lot of announcements here, so chat will probably get there before me. But I believe Kimi is going. Also, can we get a Kimi on the grid? It would be nice to get a Kimi back on the grid, wouldn't it? It's not the same without him. Different guy, but who cares? Let me just double check. I'm sure it's been confirmed that he's at Prema next year in F2, because he's skipping F3. Oh, God, Mercedes, do tweet. Stop tweeting. Goodness me, this is too much. I'm appalled at this. Let's go back about 9 weeks to try and find something, or it's going to take me 9 weeks to get there. Nobody's confirmed it in chat yet. I'm going to see if I can get there before they do, but no, I can't find it now. I'm absolutely certain that he has been confirmed. Mercedes will wait. Oh no, that's not. We'll wait until the Formula One Regional Championship has finished before making a call on protege Andrea Kimi Antonelli and his surprise move to F2, is what Autosport was saying. But I could have sworn I saw something. You're getting a little insight into my brain here, which is a terrifying prospect. I thought I'd read it somewhere. Oh, it was his birthday. No, that's not recent. No, what are you on about? I don't know. I thought it had been, but it hasn't been. So we'll see. Yeah, there you go. Mercedes Junior Kimi Antonelli will race in Formula 2 for Prema in 2024. Yeah, I thought I'd seen it somewhere. Is that officially official? Ollie Behrman and Kimi Antonelli. It looks like. I can't find the official tweet. I'm sure I saw an official tweet on it. Clearly I didn't, so it sounds like it will be. Anyway, that took way too long. What is the mind of Sean like? Waffles, Ferrari, and a shrine of stuff. Waffles, yes. The food and the talking to myself and to you guys. Ferrari a bit, yeah. Stress, frustration, getting angry at idiots on social sometimes. Apparently coming up with official announcements that don't exist. You know, it's very exciting. It's very exciting. I mean, I wouldn't wish it on anybody, what goes on in my head half the time, but There we go. So there's no official announcement, no. So, but that's the rumor, I guess, is the line there. I thought it had been. I thought it was Mercedes, but when I just searched his name there was one for his birthday, which was back in August, and then one just underneath that was saying that the rumor was. I've obviously seen Mercedes and that and put them together in my head when scrolling through quickly. So the dangers of Twitter. So yes, it's not official, but that's the rumor. So I'm interested to see what Vesti does, but or Behrman. Could Vesti move on to something else? Maybe replace Porsche, ART, perhaps could happen. Tyre Talk segues are also in there somewhere, says a Yinker. Yeah, that's true. I think I'm going to put a post just for the final 8 races of the season in the community thing here on YouTube, so keep an eye out for it, where I'm going to ask you to give me your tyre talks for each race weekend, because I'm running out of ideas and they're becoming a stretch, which I realise when they become more of a stretch, they become more stupid, which is kind of what they're supposed to be. But it would also be nice to kind of give people a chance to put theirs in, definitely. Yeah, probably Waldo. That's probably what it is. That's the other thing I was going to say to you today. I wanted to say it yesterday rather than in this one, but I'll say it quickly. I keep talking about using that app as a news feed, but it's gone from being, following things like motorsport and autosport. I know the same thing, but places like that, and you sort of you did it for your news, but now it's just really irritating memes all the time that are just not funny. And it's like I probably could just Google these stories now and not bother with that app at all. But yeah, it's just part of my grumpy old man phase. All right, leave me alone. I'm allowed to have it. I'm hoping it's just a 1-year thing, and then I get a few years a bit more relaxed about everything. But everything makes me grumpy this year. Yeah, I've got that C64 has ruined next week's tyre talk, or the week after's tyre talk. That was the one I was going to go with. You've ruined it. It's over. I can't use it anymore. Oh, I'm depressed now. Since they introduced payments to users, everyone's trying to game the engagement algorithm. Yeah, I saw a tweet today, something about people saying they make more money on Twitter now than on YouTube, and then somebody was like, yeah, well, the problem with YouTube is you've got to put the work in with the videos, and it's like, oh god, having to work for something, how terrible. What crazy world do we live in, having to work hard to achieve something? Christ, why do that when you could just put some clickbaity nonsense out on Twitter and get lots of interactions and earn £3? I was like, yeah, god. Anyway, let's not get into that today. Am I tripping, or has Max not won 10 in a row? Sergio won in Azerbaijan. Oh god, we've not all made a horrible mistake, have we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He has definitely won 10 in a row. Miami, Monaco, Spain, Canada, Austria is 5. Then Silverstone, Hungary, Belgium, Netherlands, and Italy is another 5. You have me really nervous there. Hearty Talks, you have me really nervous there. I was like, oh god, he's only won 9. It's terrible. No, it is definitely 10. I have just checked it. It's expected that Daniel Ricciardo will miss at least the next 2 races, which is also the number of dry compounds each car must use during the race, says John T. That's a good tyre talk. Your one on Thursday was brutal, but I kind of wish I'd come up with it. Do you like straw? Let's do quick fire then. 5 minutes of quick fire, and then we're gonna end it. It can be about absolutely anything you want. Keep it clean. If I want to answer it, I'll answer it. Kind of an ask me anything type thing. If it's race related, as in related to this Grand Prix, ideal. If it's F1 related, that's going to win. But, if it's, for example, do you like strawberry or honey or jam on your toast from McLaren F1 face, then I can answer that one. True story. It's interesting that's cropped up. Until 3 days ago, I'd never, at 37 years old, never had honey on toast. Ever. Now, I swear by it. Wow. It's just sugar on bread. What was I missing? Why didn't I bother with that one? Are you going to watch IndyCar at Portland later, or are you a loser that plays too much Starfield? Why am I friends with you, John? You're so mean to me. You're such a bully. I'm not a loser. I'm a bit of a loser. I've not been on Starfield since Friday. That's tomorrow's my Sunday of a race weekend. So I will be on Starfield all day tomorrow. I'm gonna have tea, mate. I'm gonna have a dinner, and then I'll see. I've been watching IndyCar for the last few months now, so I probably will watch it. But yeah. Will Porsche replace Joe next year? Says Gucci Goo Goo. Some of your names are great. We've kind of already touched on that. Jonty says it's 50-50 because he's been pedantic. He's in one of those moods tonight in chat. I think Zhou's earned another year, but it's not just going to come down to that. Today, I don't think he will. I think he'll probably do a season as reserve at Sauber and then maybe be in there for 2025. But I wouldn't be, at the same time, I wouldn't be totally surprised if they made that decision because he's their junior and you've invested the time and the money into him. So you want to get him into F1 if he's there, don't you? So why not? Where could you realistically see Albon going in the future? I think a seat at Aston could be on the cards, says William. A lot of people talk about Red Bull as a possibility. I'm not convinced he'll go back there. You know, I could see him being on Mercedes' shortlist for Lewis Hamilton if he decides to retire at any point in the next sort of 3-4 years. I could see them having a look at him there, and I think Ferrari have had a look as well. So somewhere like that. I don't think he'll go back to Red Bull. If he's got an option of Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, I think he'll take a Mercedes or Ferrari over Red Bull. But then again, he wants to be winning in a Red Bull. If they're this dominant in 3 years' time, then maybe he'll change his mind. But yeah, Aston's a good shout. Aston's a really good shout, actually. Yeah, I quite like that shout. CPB1 says, I think Williams will sack Sargent for Zhou. Valentine says Nando's or KFC. So, based on Lincoln, where I live, and the KFC near us, I'd pick Nando's every day of the week because the KFC near us is rank. But I would have thought I'd probably pick KFC over Nando's most of the time there. Thoughts on US viewers missing out because Disney, the owners of ESPN, jacked the prices and Charter Spectrum, my cable provider, refused to pay, says Camping with Ruffles. I don't know anything about all of that, if I'm being totally honest and sounding a bit ignorant. But I don't know. I think I've seen you in chat before, so I'm sure you've heard me say this before, but I hate the fact F1's behind a paywall. I know they're going to take the money if they can get it, and I know people would say that Sky are doing a great job, and you know, that's great, but I don't like F1 behind a paywall, because if F1 had been behind a paywall when I was a kid, I'd never have got to watch it. So I'd never have been an F1 fan, which was probably saved you all of this nonsense. But yeah, I hate that it's behind a paywall anywhere. So it's even worse when it gets, you know, if it's already behind a paywall and then people get priced out of it even more. So it's a shame, and I hope that can get sorted out and somebody else can pick up the rights if they're going to do that kind of thing. But it's crazy prices anyway, really. But I did have a thought today, by the way. You've kind of reminded me. Sorry, Camping Ruffles, you've done it. You've set me off on something else now with that one. Sky have been talking about their Sky Zero thing this weekend, as they always do. And they're talking about ways they're trying to offset things. I'm not going to get into it, or you know what I'm talking about. Their net zero thing. They're talking about how they're all walking to the racetrack this weekend. I thought, that's good. Then I thought to myself, F1 TV are at every single Grand Prix weekend producing coverage for the F1 TV streaming platform. A great way for Sky to get their emissions down is to stay in the UK and just give us the F1 TV coverage. If they're that bothered by getting it down to zero, there you go. Drop your rights, stay at home, and we'll watch the F1 TV coverage. Or give us the F1 TV world feed and you can stay in a studio in the UK. I'm sure that's something they've not considered. Just saying. Thank you very much to Cornelius Goins, cracking name, for becoming a member. Thank you so much for your support. I still need to do more for memberships, I'll admit that freely, but I do appreciate the longer term support there. That means a lot, so thank you very much, mate. And you get your helmet badge thing, so designed by Lewis. So there you go. Thank you very much, mate. Appreciate that. And thank you for all your super chats tonight as well. A couple more questions then, quick fire, and then we're going to wrap it up. We'll go to just before the 2 hour mark, and then I'll sign off for the day. Nigel Mansell for Prime Minister. There you go. It'll be a long walk for Sky F1 presenters from Monza to Singapore, says Blobfishy. Yep, I'm sure they're walking it, definitely. No, I'm not being totally serious on that. I know that they're never going to give up their rights like that, and they pay a lot for it, but I just think, I agree with the sentiment, but don't sit there going, oh, we walked to the circuit today, when actually you could have just stayed in the UK and done it in the studio in the UK without travelling. Obviously, the coverage then you could argue would suffer, and people say, well, why am I paying all this if you're sat in a studio in the UK? Why can't our prices come down? But at the same time, I still think we should just have F1 TV in the UK, and then that's that. But then again, the flip side of that coin is then you've got one person with the monopoly, and maybe that's not a good thing. So there you go. Apparently Nico took a bus, says Dell. Also, yesterday, forgot again, Nick Heifeld in the paddock for the first time in a decade, I think he'd said. Good to see him there. The legend that is Nick Heifeld. It's been a long time. Jamie says Pepsi or Coke? Pepsi all day long. Pepsi Max all day long. Regular Coke over regular Pepsi, but Pepsi Max over Coke Zero. Hop on that fence, Sean. Hop on it. If Antonelli is really good, Mercedes could have a driver dilemma. To have George, Mick, Vesti, Aaron, Antonelli, and maybe Albon in their pool would be tough to manage. Good point from Hikaru there. Yeah, because I forgot about Aaron. He's in Mercedes due because I like him. Paul Aaron. Definitely. Red Bull or Monster, says Waldo. Neither. I don't drink either. Clancy says, got to go, Sean. All the best. Thanks for the stream. No worries, mate. Thank you so much for coming along. Good to see you again. We'll be wrapping up in a minute anyway, so thank you very much. I don't like Dr. Pepper. Viewers go down to 0. It's over. Go away. No, I don't really. I don't do energy drinks. The only time I used to drink them was at Aldi, the German discount supermarket. And I used to have their, what's it called? Dark Thunder or whatever it was called. Whoa. That was disgusting, but you needed it to try and stay alive in that place, frankly. Best weekend for Carlos in Ferrari, and first one where he was dominant over Charles over the whole weekend. Will give him a lot of confidence, says Yash. Good point. Really good. It was a good performance from Carlos this weekend, and also he now avoids being only the third Ferrari driver in 40 years not to score a podium in a season. So well done to him. Well done. I'm really happy for Carlos. And the defending, I know people won't like it. Some people love it. Some people hate it. I quite enjoyed it. So it was good stuff. Just keep it clean. Keep it clean as best you can, Carlos. But nice and aggressive. It's good to see. Oh, Del, don't look. I know there's. Stop giving me grief over the way I say Audi and Aldi. Somebody's going to tell me it's Aldi. I can tell you now, having worked there, it's not Aldi. It is Aldi. We've been through this. I've been through this with them, definitely. Couple more, and I mean couple more, then I'm going to have to wrap up because I need to get some dinner and I'm getting hot, and I just need to check something very quickly on Sky, which could dictate my mood for the rest of the evening. Oh, fuck off. Oh, well, that's depressing, isn't it? Oh, dear. Right. That'll be Glazers out trending tonight, then. Yeah, my mood is bad now, John T. Yeah, I've seen it. At least it's not 7. People sharing dog pictures on the Discord. Stop it. Did you hear Sauber is getting sponsored by the Saudi Tourist Board next year? The team will be Saudi. Very good. And anything F1 related as a question quickly, otherwise I'm going to wrap it up because we've done the silly quick fire questions. Yeah, I agree. You might as well give them the trophy now, CPB. Give them it the next 115 times if you like, but that you may as well. As a German, his Audi pronunciation is on point. His Audi, not so much. And again, people are going, he's just said the same word twice, but thank you, Letox. I'm not sure what the Audi would be. Audi? Like audio? I don't know. Maybe one day. I have no idea, Jamie. I'm not answering that one. I think, yeah, we'll leave it there. I'm just having a look at chat, see if anyone's got anything related to the weekend. I'll just have another double quick check on press releases, make sure nothing has come through. I'm intrigued by Red Bull, yes. I'm intrigued by this one. Christian Horner. Let's see what he says. Anything on... Nothing there on the issues for Max. And at one point, when his tyres were wearing a little, he's talking about Carlos Sainz. We tried to make him brake late. He locked up a little bit, and I thought, perfect. They were to pass him on the exit of turn 2. From there, it was about managing things and bringing the car home safely. And then it says 10 wins in a row. Nothing in here of the actual specifics of the issue. So if there is something, I'll have a double check of Motorsport before we go, because that's just there, so it's just easy to get to. And we'll see if there's anything official on there. Toto Wolf says Verstappen F1 wins record is for Wikipedia. I'm sure I'd have said exactly the same if Lewis Hamilton had won it. Don't take anything these drivers and these team principals say to each other and about each other too seriously, by the way. A lot of people get offended by it, but it does spark debate. But, you know, if Hamilton just won 10 in a row, Toto Wolff wouldn't shut up about it. So it's not for Wikipedia at all. And Christian Horner will be saying they're for Wikipedia as well. Flip it around. It's just the way it goes. No, I can't see anything on what the issue was for Verstappen. So if there is anything, no, nothing to report there. Nothing in the press release. So maybe they'll let us know in a few weeks. But, was it a brake issue? Says Dark Stein. Makes sense. That makes a lot of sense because he was told to back off, wasn't he, from Gasly, who was lapped. So that would explain that overheating brakes. So, yeah, thank you very much. That would make sense. Yes. So, we're going to wrap it up there, though, because I could waffle all day. Just a reminder, like I said yesterday, these names at the end, they're not complete. I will do these this week in time for the content, which will be Singapore week, probably. You know what it's like. Yeah, but that is it for this. Please do leave a like. 202, 320 still here. Please do leave a like. Really do appreciate that. Helps the channel in the algorithm. If you're watching later, drop me an emoji. Let me know who you think Driver of the Day was, or just tell me who you think Driver of the Day was. That will help with engagement on YouTube and supporting the channel as well. And don't forget to subscribe as well so you don't miss out on any future content. In terms of content, this coming week is, I think, a week where I need to put a boot up my own backside. There could be something that we do where I kind of explain things a bit better, but there will be some big changes coming in the future, which I need to do now. Otherwise, the channel's not going to be here in 6 months. So that needs to be sorted, really. And I need to be doing that rather than trying to worry about across a race weekend, sorting it when I've got the gap to do it. But I'll definitely be here for Singapore. Preview as usual. There'll be the race reaction, the post-quali waffle, all of that good stuff. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that one. But I'd like to get back to much more regular and frequent content and a lot more narrative content as well, rather than just this kind of thing. As much fun as these are, I'd like to be getting back to doing some of the other stuff a bit more as well. So there we go. We'll discuss it. We'll discuss it at some point. I promise we will. Follow me on socials if you like. I don't do a lot over there, but you can do. Why not? I occasionally tweet, like today, just to say that the Italian national anthem is the best national anthem in the world. So feel free to follow me over there at F1 Word, the F1 Word. You'll find me in all sorts of places. But yeah, I think we'll call it there. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word. And until next time, goodbye.